So we turn now to another passage in the book of Psalms, the 116th chapter, book of Psalms, and chapter 116. It's a lengthy chapter, we won't read all of it, but we'll read some verses from the beginning. I love the Lord, because he hath heard my voice and my supplications. Because he hath inclined his ear unto me, therefore will I call upon him, as long as I live. The sorrows of death compassed me, and the pains of hell got hold on me. I found trouble and sorrow. Then called I upon the name of the Lord. O Lord, I beseech thee, deliver my soul. Gracious is the Lord, and righteous. Yea, our God is merciful. The Lord preserveth the simple. I was brought low, and he helped me. This psalm is well known and greatly loved. It doesn't have a title, and there is no indication of who the author was. Calvin believes it was David, and the evidence in the psalm would seem to support that probable conclusion. But whoever it was clearly somebody who had found himself in great trouble and had found help. Now, I'd like to focus with you this evening on the last of these verses that we read, verse 6. I'll read it again. The Lord preserveth the simple. I was brought low, and he helped me. The verse begins, in light of what I just said about trouble and help, with the assurance that the Lord preserveth the simple. Well, the word simple is used in different ways in the Bible. It's used, of course, in a bad sense sometimes. Calvin speaks of that, of people who are foolish, who will not follow wholesome advice. And we have an example of that in Proverbs chapter 7. But in this case, it's used in a positive sense. It's used to denote those who are sincere and who have a childlike trust in the Lord, a simple trust in the Lord. It's a contrast, a complete contrast actually, to the clever, unscrupulous ways of the world. And the children of this generation, as the Lord puts it in another context. Those who are described here do not live as, do not behave like that clever, shrewd, sinful world that is around them. They live in a simple, childlike trust. They wait on the Lord. They wait for his way, for example. They wait for his time. Now, David himself, whether he was the author here or not, is a good example of that. He is promised the kingdom. Saul, for a good period of time, remains king. And there were those, as we know from the scriptures, who would have encouraged David to move the process on a little faster by destroying Saul. And who would even suggest that God's providence was opening a door for that. But David resists that. He will wait on the Lord. Simply wait on the Lord's time, the Lord's way, because that was the best time and the best way. Now, the world, of course, regards that as naive and foolish. And maybe when you speak like that, and when it's obvious that you live like that, the world will mock you and perhaps even attack you at times. But we notice that the psalmist has no hesitation in identifying himself with them. They may be simple in the eyes of the world. They may lack the clever shrewdness which the world considers commendable and necessary to get by, but the psalmist has no hesitation in putting himself in their number. Whatever other people think, this is what I am, and this, he says, is how I am. And he gives this assurance that the Lord preserves the simple. He will preserve them. In other words, he will defend them when there is need for defense. He will sustain them in the middle of difficulties and troubles. I'll say more about that in a moment. He will keep them in and through these situations. At the last, he will deliver them. He will preserve them for glory. He will preserve them for his kingdom. They shall never perish, and none shall ever pluck them out of his hand or out of the Father's hand. The Lord preserveth the simple. Now we might say to the psalmist, well, that's a good word. That's a great encouragement. But how do you know? How can you be sure that that is the case? Well, he tells us in the verse, in the very next clause, in fact. The Lord preserveth the simple. I, one of the simple, was brought low, and he helped me. I was brought low, and he helped me. Now, who can't apply this to their own experience at one time or another? We can divide this just several ways for our purposes tonight. I was low with guilt, you say, thinking here of your unconverted days before the Lord worked in your soul. Maybe before then you weren't low at all. You were riding high in your own estimation and maybe in the estimation of others as well. You were proud, as we all are. You were self-sufficient, as we all are, unless and until the Lord takes something of that from us. But a change came, maybe very suddenly, maybe very slowly, maybe for a relatively short period, maybe for a longer period. Doesn't matter. It came. And you were set low with guilt, concern for your soul. You saw yourself heading to a lost eternity. And who can dwell with everlasting burnings? You were brought low, and you thought you would never be brought high again. Well, Saul of Tarsus was brought low. There he was, riding high. The Lord brought him low in a moment. He was brought low. I was brought low, and he helped me. He showed you the way of salvation as he showed Saul. He redeemed your soul as he redeemed Saul's. He helped you when you thought you were beyond help. And indeed you were beyond any help other than the Lord's help, as Mr. Fraser was reminding us just a moment ago. The need of the Holy Spirit's work in all of this. And then in your Christian life as well. Have you not been low at times with guilt because of your own sinful folly? Has guilt not brought you low? We think of David again. We've been considering in our own congregation, we've been working our way through 2 Samuel. And we're at that point in David's life where he has that disastrous fall and he is brought low. I have sinned against the Lord. Psalm 51, of course, is a product of that whole situation. We think of Peter in the New Testament in his denial of the Lord. Well, both could say this. Both could say, I was brought low. And the Lord, he helped me. He restored them. and he restores all his people. He restores my soul. So I was low with guilt. I was low, perhaps, in illness of body or mind. So low that I thought I'd never come up, perhaps you're saying. I was reading earlier on today about Hezekiah. You remember he became very ill, and he says in Isaiah 30 and verse 14, he said, I'm like a crane or a swallow, so did I chatter. I did mourn as a dove. Mine eyes fail with looking upward. O Lord, I am oppressed. Undertake for me. Well, the Lord did. He undertook for him, and we know what happened. Perhaps you recall how the Lord helped you when you were ill, giving you grace, bringing healing and help, perhaps in unexpected ways. I was low, and he helped me. I was low with guilt. I was low with illness of body or mind. I was low with trouble, you say. Difficulties, things that came into your life, circumstances that were hard, maybe things in your family, and it brought you low. Maybe bereavement, and it brought you low, and it's still leaving you low tonight. You feel very low. At the same time, you look and you say, well, the Lord helped me. He gave me strength that I didn't have. He gave me grace. He brought comfort in the midst of it all. I was low, and the Lord helped me. I was low with temptation, the devil's arrows. We think of Elijah under the juniper tree. The Lord sustained him and received him and fulfilled his word towards him. Spurgeon puts it like this, I was brought low and he helped me. Simple though I was, the Lord did not pass me by. Though I was reduced in circumstances, though I was slandered in character, though I was depressed in spirit and sick in body, the Lord helped me. And still the Christian can say, he helped me. He helped me to pray on. He helped me to press on. He helped me to wait on. Oh, I was low. And maybe you're saying it's not even in the past tense, it's in the present. I feel very low. Well, no Christian can ever be lower than the everlasting arms. I think it's Matthew Henry who says that those who are sustained by them cannot fall ultimately out of them. My time is gone. I was low, I am low. But I am one of the simple ones, you say, whom God has preserved and helped. Perhaps it's in your present experience, as I was saying a moment ago. Well, there's another psalm that maybe speaks to you as well. Psalm 142, and I think it's verse 6. Because I am brought very low, attend unto my cry. Me from my persecutor save, who stronger are than I. Well, may the Lord follow with his own blessing our thoughts on his word.